All right, good Saturday morning, Hobbyverse. I'm John Newman from Sports Card Nation. It's time for another edition, 174 to be exact, of Hobby Hotline. We're on every Saturday at 11 a.m. right now. And Tuesday nights, we call that show Hobby Hotline Overtime. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. Today, I'm joined by our regular guy, Brody the Kid. Brody, good morning.
What's up, everyone?
And a special guest who hopefully won't be a stranger to the show, but a good friend of mine, Danny Black at Sports Ball. Good morning, Danny.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome, welcome.
Danny
All right,
Black.
we got a few things on the docket. Good morning, everyone else as well. I think I want to start out with probably the biggest news story of recent is with the whole 86 87 Fleer basketball whatnot box that BBCE certified as a quote put together box, which don't get me started there. That'll be our whole hour, and you guys won't get to talk. So I won't do that. But, a lot of issues there with it. Cards were coming out in alphabetical order rather than sequential order. A lot of people caught on to it and whatnot. Steve Hart had this long response, which was to me a Seinfeld episode. It was just made the waters more muddier, and he was actually not factually correct. There is a sequencing to this product. I've been around a long time. I've seen enough of this opened, whether it be in person or on video. There's a method to Fleer's madness that didn't add up on the box at Whatnot and their folks open. So Whatnot has responded, guys, and I'm going to put it up here on the screen and then read it, and then we'll share our takes here on what we think of their response. They're trying to make it right, I would say. Here's their statement. Whatnot has been made aware of concerns with the 1986-87 Fleer basketball box that we gave away at this year's National. The BBCE wrap box was purchased on Golden and unwrapped live with all hits, including 3 Michael Jordan rookie cards graded by PSA. Our intention at the National was to give back to the community that we love, and in that spirit, we partnered with Golden and will open a second box of 1986 Flair basketball live on Whatnot with all the packs going to the original giveaway winners. Tune in to Whatnot on August 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern for the live show hosted by Whatnot and Ken Golden. So Ken will be doing the live stream with Whatnot. They did not say in that statement uh, what if that box was where if it's certified or any kind of the provenance of the box itself. So I don't know, but they're gonna do a take two. Uh, you know, I don't know who wants to go first, but who wants to chime in here? Good, bad, too late. What say you guys?
Go for it, Brody.
Well, it's interesting. Like you said, the collation of the first box obviously wasn't right. I learned a lot of this from watching Sports Card Radio. He filled me in on like a lot of stuff. So apparently there was 29 packs that were in that weird alphabetic order, then 5 regular packs that seemed to have the right, packs from a Fleer box, and then 2 packs that I don't know if anybody saw this, that when the seller got the box, Steve Hart switched 2 packs out because they looked
Yep.
tampered with, and one of them had a Michael Jordan sticker on the back. So there's 2 packs added in. I don't know where they came from, but that's just it's like a Frankenstein box, I guess. Um, what not coming out though? Um, they're making the right move for their company, I feel like, and they aren't. You could definitely tell like they're not backing up like BBCE or anything like that. So like they could potentially. I mean, they probably are a little upset because they could tell. I mean, when there's 5 Johnsons in a row in a pack, that seems a little odd.
Yeah.
But at least they're getting it all back to the winners, and we could tell Golden didn't do anything wrong. I think it's good that they're partnering with Ken Golden to do the box because Ken Golden already opened a box of Fleer and he knew exactly that it was real because he knew the exact collation. So if they rip a box, and even if it is BBCE certified, if they rip a box and Ken sees that it's out of order, he'll know because he's opened these boxes before and he knows the exact order.
Yeah, Brody, I like, regardless of what you think of him, Ken Golden, the fact that he's going to go on screen, he's going to own that if it does go the wrong way, unlike, frankly, Steve Hart. And I just don't, and I have boxes. I've said this on my show. I have boxes over there that are wrapped by BBCE. I feel very strongly about it. Like, I don't even know what that wrapping means anymore. Now, the boxes I have are not 86, 87 for basketball. They range anywhere value wise from $50 to 200 to 300. So we're not talking about an 86, but because this is not the first time. I think it's this. We remember the GI Joe Pokemon debacle about 5 months ago, and here it is again, and just poorly handled to me. And I think Steve Hart would have been better off saying, my bad, or we screwed up. This, we're human. We do this, thousands of times. It doesn't mean I'm happy about it, but we got duped again, like, which is what he said on the GI Joe facade. So I'm not a huge whatnot guy, but I'll give credit where credit's due. They're trying to make it right. They're trying to do damage control. They didn't have to do it, and like you said, Brody,
Right.
if you read the statement in there, they sort of throw a little shade BBCE's way when they said, basically said they certified the first box, and that's what happened. So I think that they're trying to make it right, and so I'll give them credit. Danny, what's your take on this?
I actually think Whatnot got put in a terrible position. I think they
Yeah.
kind of got caught holding you know, the hot potato. One of the things that bothers me is the information that was disclosed on the original Golden listing. And was that list from the original time that Steve certified the box? There's actually a list of the stickers that are shown, how many of each sticker was shown, and that gave buyers an opportunity to get a sense of what the Frankenstein box had. A lot of people don't realize the 86, 87 Fleer was not wrapped in cellophane like boxes today. So that's one of the things that makes this extra
Yeah,
difficult. Is I think a lot of people don't even realize that. So when BBC typically wraps a box, it's typically their wrap on top of the other wrap, and this is just their wrap on top of a box. So like Brody said, the Frankenstein box it is hard to really understand unless you go through every pack, check through the wax, read the cards, do the math, figure out if it works. And if that's not disclosed and somebody spends 140,000 or whatever they did on the box, um, they've already bought it. You can't go through the packs online, and that's one of the challenges here. People that have experience probably want to look at the box before they buy it, especially if you're spending six figures. Who paid for the boxes, I think, is one of the questions. I think the idea of influencers being involved, the idea that it was a marketing, all these things need to be taken into consideration. I think BBC deserves the benefit of the doubt. I mean, PSA has made mistakes, SGC, Beckett, everybody's made mistakes. However, the grading companies seem to have a little bit of competition, and I think that forces them to maybe be a little bit more transparent. And that's one of the things I'd like just in general between the Golden listing, Whatnot's perspective on what they were actually doing. What was their goal? Was it marketing? Was it to get the cards out? Or educate people on the box and the set. So I'd like to hear from them on that perspective. It's great they're opening another box, but that could be a Frankenstein box also. I mean, this is what are they going to get? Another BBCE wrap box. So who knows where that goes?
yeah, I got a response. Let me do some good mornings here to everybody. Good morning, Paige and Deanie Bean. Thank you. We're on the big screen as usual in New Buffalo, Michigan, at the Sports Card Shop at Moco. Hi, Rex, Max, and Owen. Good morning, Abraham Pooter. Pepino Man says Buenos Dias. Good morning as well. John Keating got a thing for Brody here. Is Red Hot Chili Peppers now considered classic rocks? So, and this is, I'm going to stop right here because I agree with this. Rex makes a great point. This is actually what I was going to say after doing all the shout outs was I had no idea they put together boxes, then wrapped them. That's crazy to me who would buy that. And I agree. And you make a great point, Danny. I was in the hobby in 1986 and 87, and I remembered those boxes, and they were not shrink wrap. They came just as open box, not open, but you pulled up the flap, it's tucked in, you pulled it up, and if you were a store, you put it in the back and you sold packs, or if someone wanted the whole box, you just didn't open the flap and you gave them the box. And just like Rex said, when I read that they found one pack tampered with and the other open with, like Brody said, the Jordan sticker on there, and they just replaced two packs. Like, I just, that was, to me, you can't wrap that. I mean, if you want to sell it and just state what it really is, like, hey, this might just be 36 packs from who knows where. Could be 8 packs from one box, 10 from another, 10 from another, and the last,
That's the other thing.
eight from another, and call it what it is. And then it's going to, obviously, it's got to be priced accordingly. Because if you were a shady character who had 3 or 4 boxes of 86, 87 Fleer basketball, you started opening, you could hit like 2 Jordans early, stop, keep the rest of the packs closed, go to the, if you were just fortunate enough to hit a few boxes, a few Jordans early, and then just put the rest of the packs together, you could make one of these Frankenstein boxes, as they call them, and they're not going to have the 3 or 4 Jordans that most boxes typically will have. And like you said, Dan, why would someone, to me, why would someone pay that kind of price for a box that's, put together? And I think, anytime a box is called Frankenstein, that's probably not a good thing, right? I don't think that's a good term, right? We all know Frankenstein, the movie, right? And that's where the term, it's put of all different parts. Well, if the box is called Frankenstein, that's not a term that should really, get you that excited. And so, I don't think it, like Rex said, it probably shouldn't have been wrapped. To me, you only wrap, or wrapped with like a big note right on the front of it that we cannot assure that these packs are all from the same original box. It's got to be stated.
Well,
But
you
if
can
you're going to
certify
wrap something, what's that?
you can certify the packs, then that's what they should have done. Just certify them as individual packs.
Yeah. Yeah, but even that makes me nervous because someone could cherry pick some Jordans out of a bunch of boxes and then just sell. Now, listen, Jordan's not the only card of significance, obviously, in that set. You got Barkley, Olajuwon, Ewan. Don't forget my guy Chris Mullin. But there's plenty of other rookies. But Jordan's obviously the card. That's what everyone wants to get. And so, if someone was to do something illicit, pull some Jordans out of some boxes early, and then just Frankenstein the rest of the packs. I don't think that's cool. And I if I'm BBCE, I don't want to wrap something like that and look bad when something bad happens, which is exactly what happened here, guys. And Danny, I want to touch on a point you made. We have over 100 grading companies. Some we've never even heard of, who knows where, right? No shortage of grading card companies. But when it comes to, now PSA grade, authenticates packs, but when it comes to like wrapping and certifying boxes, I'm not aware of anyone but BBCE doing it. So they sort of have the monopoly on this. And I just wonder, and I don't want to speak for Steve, and he's welcome. I don't think he's listening, but he's always welcome either to call into this show or come on Sports Carnation in my case. But I just wonder if, because there's no competition there, if you get complacent, if you sort of, hey, we don't have to worry about, I'm sure they don't want to screw up, but without someone pushing you to be on your best performance, you sometimes can get complacent. I wonder if doesn't excuse what happened twice here in a 5 month span. But I just wonder if that's a factor with Steve Hart and his company, not having someone else that someone else can go to.
Mhm.
When PSA drops the ball, right, there's a million people saying, "Hey, send to SGC, send to Beckett, send to CSG." There's when BBCE screws up, it's just like, oh my God, they did it again. But there's no alternative, and I just
Right.
wonder if that's a factor to their performance of late.
That's what I wanted to mention too, because going even back all the way to the Pokemon scandal, when he got the box, that was the first ever Pokemon box he had ever wrapped. So, and all he did to show that it was real is it looked like the tape was stuck or something weird. Like it didn't make sense. But the other thing, like you said, with competition, he BBC authenticates packs for PSA. PSA owns Golden. So if people think, well, why is Steve Hart not in this hobby anymore? Like, it's because he authenticates packs for PSA. PSA owns Golden. It's a big loop.
Yeah,
I Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it, and it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, if collectors brought in some sort of authentication for wax. I think that's becoming a bigger and bigger area. In the
yeah,
vintage
they're
wax
doing they're
group.
doing the packs. Why not
Well,
just
but the packs, like Brody said, are going through BBCE anyway. I mean,
yeah?
they're just
But
sending packs.
yeah, you're right. And Brody that was a good point. But unless PSA says sees this and says, "Listen, we're already taking enough shots on other things, and we're not gonna it's got to be hard. Listen, I was in the hobby then, and it would be hard for me to determine that this is a non tampered with box. You know what I mean? Like that's almost a lost art. This would probably be as close to defending Steve Hart as I'll get. Like it's probably not an easy thing to do, um, which is probably why there's no one else doing it. But when you are the only one and you drop the ball, right? Those hot lamps are going to get very hot. I want a couple comments here from John Keating. He says, "What percentage of BBCE certified stuff gets open? Do you think? Have they dodged bullets because most stuff never gets open?" Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
point, right? Again, on a smaller scale, I got boxes over there, still sealed, with that wrapping. He also says, well, I think on Whatnot's part, maybe just doing this for a ratings grab. I'm sure there's an element. Rex says, glad Whatnot is finally stepping up to protect the integrity of the hobby. They've not done so in the past. All right. Dan Ryan, good morning, all. Can all this talk about Fleer lead to a Fleer comeback in 2023 and beyond? It would be cool to see the designs come back. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, Upper Deck owns the Fleer name. Obviously, they only have the hockey license, so I guess they could produce a Fleer hockey for those that may want it. They did the Metal Universe, which was along that family of lines. But as far as Fleer basketball, unless Upper Deck sells to who, probably not the case. So Paige and Deanie Bean, Ben, how much attention they're getting? Everyone talking about the Fleer debacle. Yeah, for sure, right? They're getting some extra pub. Um, Rex again, BBCE's entire business model is based on his expert opinion, but he makes no guarantee. The business flawed, the process is unreliable. We need to stop putting so much value on those types of services. Yeah, I agree. Uh, and Pepino Man, yeah, here, look at this. I like how the authenticator took out the Jordan sticker
Yeah.
pack
And
and kept it. I don't know what that was never disclosed. What happened to that? Maybe it's at the sticker itself is at PSA getting
yeah.
graded.
hmm
Uh, I don't know. Korean cardboard. Good morning.
I know the second
Three
pack had a
B.
good sticker too. I don't remember who, maybe Ewing or something like that, but I remember it was another one of the good ones.
Yep, yep.
The
Good
Jeff
morning,
Malone.
everyone at work. That's Herman. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many tentacles to this, guys. Obviously BBCE really took the pie in the face again. That's I think that's the obvious. You can say what you will, and I don't disagree with the folks in the chat that said, Whatnot's doing it for some more pub. They are, but that's it's not a cheap box to buy another one and give it
No.
away. So
Mm.
they're paying a hefty price for some additional pub. Bink Scott, good morning. I'll read his comment. BBCE shouldn't have authenticated the box when Steve saw. That's
Yeah.
you read my mind because when I read
Ding, ding,
that,
ding, ding,
and
ding.
that's not debatable, guys. Steve Hart did a video where he himself talked about it. That's not
Yeah.
an
Mhm.
allegation. That's Steve Hart himself saying, "Hey, there were two packs in the original box. One was open with a Jordan sticker. The other one I could tell was tampered with. I replaced them with two packs." And that's where the Frankenstein term comes in. And
Yeah,
that's not, you can't authenticate that box. All it,
right.
like Danny, you said it. It's 36 packs of 86, 87 Fleer. And some of these people who tamper with this stuff are really good. Who's to say even one or more of those other packs slipped by Steve where he didn't feel they were tampered with
Right.
yet they are. And I just
And not only that, I mean, if you're doing something that expensive and that serious, there should be photographs of the packs. Why were they removed? There should be documentation. I don't know that just telling people what it was is satisfactory. Like you said, the Jordan sticker could be on its way to PSA. Well,
yeah,
where, where did that pack come from? Where did that pack go? Where did the replacement packs come from? And that's kind of the transparency part that bothers me in general. The golden listing, like I said it before, has to be as transparent as it can be. But to Brody's point, everybody profits from everybody profiting in this situation. And
yeah.
so I think it's real easy for everybody to turn a blind eye because you never know when it's going to happen. And if it was done on purpose, then there's a lot more people involved. So was this one of many BBCE wrap boxes that are inaccurate? It just happened to get open? Because John, I think you're right. I think a lot of people use a BBCE wrap like an investment. That it gets the wrap, it goes in the closet or it goes in the safe, and you don't touch it for years. And now
Yep.
there's that label could be devalued.
Well,
To
and the
me,
thing,
it's the same as grading, right? A graded 9 or 10 is going to be worth more than a raw. This is the equivalent for boxes. Go ahead, Brody.
well, and the other thing is, if we can make this Frankenstein box, what the heck? Let's take a pack from 36 different states and authenticate it as a box and sell it on Golden. And who knows? There might not be one Jordan, or there might be 36 Jordans, but technically, it's an authentic box.
Exactly.
I think the moral of the story is, and there's many boxes that fit this description, right, guys? Like the 86, 87. There are many boxes. I had them in my stores that did not come shrink wrapped. They just came kind of sealed and packed. And when you're dealing with those boxes, I think it's buyer beware. I think you have to be on edge to think that somebody, and even more so with the Fleer, because there's a certain sequencing. If you see a certain player, there's probably a Jordan in that pack, and you can see the players through the wrapper on the front and back, especially if you start using, magnification, a light, and the people who do pack searching are very good at that. And so you could probably look at a sealed pack and know, hey, there's going to be no Jordan this one, and put that back in the box, right? And so these people that are making these Frankenstein or put together boxes could probably almost, with probably 95% accuracy, make a box that may not have a Jordan in it.
Mhm.
And if for what these boxes go for, I'm sure as heck not going to pay that, knowing that may be the case. And we'll see. The big question is I'm reading stuff where are the price of this now going to go down because everyone's so leery. I'm sure that'll be a factor. There's a couple more comments here. Card hobbyist, good morning. Refractor Jones. BBCE needs to set higher standings as far as grading these premium boxes. If the box has any appearance of a rewrap, hot waxing, or tampering, the entire box should be excluded from authentication, and then the box uh, should have been switched to pack authentication. I agree. Once Steve Hart admitted like those two packs were not, uh, he couldn't pass his inspection. He shouldn't have like just grabbing two packs from his personal inventory, which is what I'm assuming those two packs came from, and putting them in that box and sealing it with the BBCE seal. I don't agree with that. I think Refractor right there makes a great point that maybe the individual packs, almost like what PSA would do, should be certified as authentic, and that's it. But wrapping the whole box, there is a part uh, there's a problem with that to me, and apparently a lot of others. Card collecting addict says, I would be curious exactly what the authentication should mean. If a box were never sealed, then why seal it as authentic? Another great point. You're sealing a box that never was sealed in its original form, right? It's a great another great point, right? So I think this is really going to change the game when it comes to the 86, 87 Fleer basketball, any kind of fear. And guys, they're so revered, but I'm going to be honest with you, they're not really. I mean, they're not prevalent, but there's plenty of them around still sealed. And every few months, you read that someone finds like a case in an attic or 10 boxes somewhere. So there's still sealed stuff around, but it's at the point when this happens, you just don't know what you're getting anymore. Is this been tampered with? And Fleer has their sequencing for a reason, to make sure you get 3 sets through a box you opened in 1987. But because of that sequencing, it makes it easier for pack searchers to do, their evil deeds and pull those Jordans out without having to necessarily open the whole box. So not a good look, for BBCE. I'm going to do, shameless plug. Monday will be a Hobby Quick Hits episode where I tackle that topic, and not going to be very good if you're BBCE. And I'll say this now: he's Steve or anyone from that organization is welcome for equal time. But any kind of just we spent half the show on this. Any kind of closing thoughts? I think we really deep dived it, and a lot of great comments from chat. Any kind of just closing thoughts?
I just want to say, steel sharpens steel is what we were always taught playing sports, growing up. And I think we've seen a mutual respect between some of the card grading companies, and there's no reason that it should be an adversarial idea to have another wax uh, authentication company. And that shouldn't be a negative. That shouldn't be a shot at anybody. It's just, I think, better for the entire hobby.
Yeah, no doubt. If you were an entrepreneur or a business person or someone in the hobby or even an existing company like we talked about with PSA, and you were considering throwing your hat in the wax grading, box grading rink arena, this this is probably no better time
In
than
fact, I'm
right.
starting it right now. Send me your 86, 87 Flair boxes. The Danny Black authentication company has just started, and just send me your boxes. Don't worry, I'll put them in saran wrap and put my sticker on.
And Danny doesn't know it yet, but I'm a silent partner on that new venture. So,
Well,
all
Brody's
right.
up front, man.
Yeah, we have to have a good looking person like being all the advertisements. It ain't you or me, Danny. So, all right, guys, let's move on to our next topic, which is a little bit of a lighter hearted one or a better one, right? I'll put it on the screen. The Hank Aaron rookie, PSA 9, just sold for a record, I believe it was 750 or $720,000. It was through private sale um, at PWCC. There's 25 of the PSA 9s, um, and there is 310s that are out there somewhere as well. Obviously, the 310s, whoever owns them, or the three people that own them, you're looking at easily a seven-figure card in that case, with the nine bringing three-quarters of $1 million. Thoughts on this? When you look at what Manos are bringing, arguably Hank Aaron was actually a better player than Mickey Mantle. I know some might cringe when I say that, but the stats sort of bear that out. I almost still feel like this is still, even though it's a record, I almost feel like it's still kind of low when you compare it to certain other cards from that era.
I mean, to me, this I could do 30 minutes on why this card is undervalued, even at 700 some thousand. When you compare it to any other equal level baseball player at a nine in those years, it just doesn't happen. That said, specifically with the white border and the cutoff color at the top, is notorious to get graded well. This should be a seven-figure card. I mean, a 10 hasn't sold in a number of years, if I'm correct, and I think the last time a 10 sold was 300,000 or 400,000. So for a nine to only be 700 now in this market, when Tom Brady rookies are going for $1 million, like paper towels. I mean, to get a nine for Hank Aaron, a Mount Rushmore type of player, for a long-term investment, for the vintage stability, for so many reasons, I think this was actually a steal compared to investing in a prospect, or to have a Jason Dominguez card for over $1 million.
Brody didn't want me to say this, but I'm gonna let Brody has three of these in his personal collection, so I know he's going to be biased when he talks about it. But go ahead, Brody. Your thoughts on this number that this Aaron just pulled in?
It's super undervalued. I mean, I have three of them, and I want to get a lot more than 700,000.
He's got all the tens.
Yeah, I got the three tens, over there somewhere. Uh, but yeah, I think yeah, I like to see that it's going up at least. But like you said, I still think it's undervalued when you look at like Mickey Mantle sales. And really, I know it's really old, but Hannes Wagner was not really that good of a baseball player in reality.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's the whole mystique behind that card, and the fact that there's not many of them. He had it pulled because of the tobacco affiliation. So it's more with the Wagner. I mean, he is a Hall of Famer, but with the Wagner, it's even more than that. It's the whole backstory and the fact that many were pulled and destroyed, and only so many
Yeah.
with the tobacco. So, but I don't disagree with you, and yeah, and a comment from Ziggy here. Do private sales have to be reported by an auction house for people to believe it? And do the private people pay these auction houses to announce the private sale? Uh, WTF, I have a few private sales. I try to make all my sales as private as I can. None in this range, unfortunately. But why do we hear about it? Because it's the new record, right? If this card had sold for 500,000 and was underneath the what was the record previously, we it wouldn't make news, and we wouldn't hear about it. So we're going to hear about it in two cases, right? When it's record setting, or it's part of like a big sale, whether it be Heritage or Golden, and they just kind of talk about all the key cards when the auction closes. But other than that, when it comes to private sales, the only ones you hear about are going to be record setting ones, unless the seller on their social media says, "Hey, look what I just bought." Right? That can happen too.
Well, John, you're probably gonna get tired of me pounding this point into the ground, but population control, I think, is the least talked about influencer in the hobby. The modern card print runs and then grading quantities versus the vintage is so disproportionate, that it's just not talked about. I mean, what do you say? There's only 25 of these and only three higher. I mean, that's absurd. I said it at the show. I mean, Zion had 20,000 tens on his Prism base rookie. I mean, this is a Hank Aaron base rookie. There was nothing else. And so you're talking about, 34 of them, nine or higher, versus 20,000. So if somebody's a fan, somebody's a collector, it's just, supply and demand for all these cards are going to throw them off the charts. I think the 51 Bowman Willie Mays, somebody I think mentioned it, is one of the most undervalued cards. I do work and consult with buyers, and I usually do keep those sales private, just so people know I don't report them. Usually at the buyer's request, but right now a lot of people are moving into that high end vintage, and then certain guys I think are going to start getting their respect because there's very few undervalued vintage right now.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
mentioned Mays and Yakov Strauss. Good morning. He says for the longest time, Mays and Aaron have been undervalued. I agree. Willie Mays stuff is it's made some stride. Willie Mays cards have made some strides the last year or two as he's right now, in my opinion. I don't think I'll get too much argument. The greatest living ball player that we have at the moment, and hopefully that remains for a long, as long time as possible. But facts remain he's in his 90s, I believe, and someday we're going to look at our phone or be online, and that news is going to come across the screen, unfortunately, saying that's not the case. And I think there'll be, as typically happens when that happens, right? There's going to be a bump then as well. It's sad that you have that something like that has to happen to get it, but that's what'll happen, especially on the autograph side of things. So, yeah, I think it's to me, it's almost like I would even hold on. If I had something of that significance, I don't, I don't know about selling it. Dan Ryan asked, did Barry Bonds hurt the value of Hank Aaron long term? I don't know. I mean, I guess that's debatable. I mean, some may say yes. I don't think so. I think they're viewed as separate entities, and frankly, I think one's viewed as doing it the organic way, and one's viewed as not doing it
I
the
think I think
organic
it
way.
helped his value for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, you could make yeah, I agree, because people are going to say, hey, Aaron didn't have to use anything to hit the
right.
ball over
Hmm.
the fence at a higher clip at an older age, more than ever before.
John, to your point about Mays getting a bump at some point, I think it's not just the physical passing of a person, but what happens is you start getting the retrospectives, and it's really educating maybe another generation or a public that maybe did not know all the details. And unfortunately, we should honor these guys more while they're alive, and we wait till after they pass to talk about how great they are. Not everybody sits down to watch Ken Burns 12 hours, every winter like I do. So how do people learn about these guys? And unfortunately, in the mainstream media right now, there's just no coverage of the great old players to any mainstream.
Yep.
So it's only when they pass that people get educated and different generations get interested in the cards.
Yeah. Well, we saw obviously what happened when Kobe Bryant died, and I think another good point is, what if we had the media in 1975 and could go back to when Roberto Clemente died? And it's
Yep.
like one of those things where you think maybe there'd be a huge explosion. But I think an undervalue, I mean, we're talking about Hank Aaron and Willie Mays, two of the top 10 baseball players of all time, undoubtedly. Let's talk about a
I would
top,
even go further. I'd say top five. You can
yeah,
easily.
probably, yeah, probably top
We're not
five.
getting started. We won't stay under an hour.
A
We won't-
couple comments, guys. I want to touch on. Ziggy says, "Isn't the recent rise in Mays because people are waiting for the end? It's obvious to me." Yeah, I agree with that. I've probably been guilty of that myself. I bought a couple that were really good price, knowing that they're probably going to go up. Now, I wanted him anyway. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have bought him if he was 63 years old and at the price I got him for, but sure. That I mean, to say otherwise would be disingenuous. So I'm sure a lot of people, if they're finding deals on Mays, knowing where his stage of life is, are probably buying them. John Keating with an auction house comment: auction houses want all of these sales publicized because they want to flush them out of private hands so they can collect commission. Sure, that's why they have.
John, can I touch on that also?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not every auction house experience goes smoothly. So most of them they would do one public, but there are things that go to auction houses that for whatever reason stay a little bit more behind the scenes. So whether it's this or a piece of sports memorabilia, a lot of times you don't hear about it till the sale is well done, and a lot of times it's even months after the sale if you do hear about it.
Yeah. Couple more comments. Refractor Jones, we need, remember this week in baseball with Mel Allen? He wants it to come back. and only run vintage highlights and stories of players gone by. I would like that, but I like that era. And Cooter Lab says, in my honest opinion, one should have to show proof of watching Ken Burns baseball with 2 booster viewings in order to buy a vintage card. So you got to have your vintage card license to Cooter Lab. But yeah, you know what? Speaking of vintage, and I've seen at shows I've attended and at shows I've set up, I've seen more younger folks buying vintage cards, and I love that. I know Cooters was a little tongue in cheek there, but I love that. Zach and Porter are here. Good morning, and Porter is 9 years old and can talk about many of those players of the past and announcers of the game. And I love when I see a young person who cares about the history of the sport or the hobby in both in most cases. Brody would fit that bill, although he's getting older, so I can't give him as much credit anymore. But when I see a young person, uh, that whether buys vintage or talks about players of yesteryear, I love that. I love that. It's refreshing, and we're seeing more of it. I'd love to see even more than we are already seeing, but that's always a good thing.
Roberto Clemente, undervalued and underrated.
Yeah, and his career, listen, obviously with the plane crash that he was killed in, his career was cut short. Me and Danny were talking before the show. Another guy, my guy back in the day when I was a young kid in New York City, Thurman Munson, right? On track to a
Yeah.
Hall of Fame career and then crashes plane. And that was, I've said it a million times. First time I realized what death was when Thurman Munson died. And the first time I actually cried over someone dying. So, we can make an argument that he probably should be in the hall. Speaking of Zach and Porter, best way to teach younger collections on the history of the game is to tell them, pay it forward. I agree. I agree, and I try to do that with my show as much as I can. I probably could do even a better job. But seeing whether because it's financially, hearing all these cards, your Aaron's, Mano, Mays, and the like, probably also helps to keep their name out there in the forefront. Yes, I know it's because someone's spending almost $1 million on that particular player's card, but it does keep them sort of in the forefront of the hobby, and that's one of the benefits uh, that's different than the financial aspect. So good to see. Any kind of when it comes to the Aaron card, we'll move on to our next subject. But anything you want to close with?
I just want to say, if you want to pay it forward, if you have even junk wax commons, donate them to your local card shop. Give them out to the kids for free, and then they can learn about the guys. From the 80s and 90s to them, that is generations before they were born. So, at least we can teach them about, certain guys, and it's free to do and pay it forward. And every local card shop will be happy to give away free cards.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, guys, and that rarely a week goes by, right? We can't talk about Fanatics and something they're doing. We all know about the distribution or the lack of the distributors and kind of phasing them out. They recently put up a survey. I'm gonna put it up here. Just they're calling it the Fanatics Collectibles Outreach Survey. You see they utilize the Tops, Zero Cool, and Candy logos. Let me read what they're saying about this survey. I want to use their words and not mine to be accurate. Um, they said, we're taking steps to improve our business, and that doesn't happen without valuable direct feedback from those who work in the sports and trading card business every day. Please note that these responses will not determine allocation, but rather allow us to properly address your needs comprehensively as we continue to build programs to support you and your growing business. So these were sent to stores, breakers, and people that are buying direct from them already. They may have sent it to some other people they're considering bringing in as well. In their statement, they said it's not pertaining to allocation, but truth be told, in my opinion, I think that's exactly what they're trying to figure out. Right? They're trying to build their business model and cut out the middleman. Fanatics, even before they acquired Tops and the licensing, they were, before you're gonna make an acquisition like that, you were looking at the hobby for years at least in advance, and so they saw those distributors, buying that at their cost from Tops and Panini and Upper Deck and all those other card manufacturers, and then raising prices to two, three, sometimes four. They saw those same distributors, right? Not only raising the prices from the SRP, but holding product back and waiting as that product appreciates in price. And then in some cases, outright being disingenuous and saying, "Hey, we just bought some more. We had to pay a higher price, and this is what the new product, the new inventory is going to cost." And Fanatics, regardless of what you think of Fanatics, and I'm a little concerned about what they're going to do in the hobby. I don't, you know what I mean. I don't blame you if you own a product, right? If you own a business, wouldn't your objective be to be as profitable as you can? They're already, one of their strong points has been distribution, not on card level, but in other things they were already doing. So this is what, to me, this survey is all about, guys, is to really sort of set it up for how they want to proceed, and their plans are to cut out the middleman. Middlemen are going to cut into your profits. They paid a lot of money for the licensing. They got Tops fairly cheap. Most would argue, but it still cost them a good chunk of change. So they need to maximize their profits. We're seeing, you're going to see Tops cards and Fanatics branded cards pretty much in every lids store. They're going to have a kiosk in there or a display in there. So if I'm a distributor, many have already been notified that they're sort of out. I think that the long term goal is to do it themselves, and Tops has always sold stuff direct on their website, and I think that's even going to be more so the case. What do you think about this survey? And do you agree with me? Do you think that's what their objective is from it?
Yeah,
Already,
I
yeah.
agree. I agree. It's what they're gonna do long term. It Yeah. I don't know as much about it, but I'd say agreed.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
Danny.
I've been following the Fanatic story for a couple of years now, and the twists and turns. I mean, we talked about the collector universe, now collector world of companies, and well, Fanatics makes that look like nothing. So the idea that they're going to have distribution, that's their secret sauce. That's everything they've done, from jerseys to all their products. Their secret sauce is distribution. And what makes their distribution great is their marketing, and their marketing is all based upon data. So there's a couple points here. First of all, I think it's a great idea that the end user, the end buyer, might have a lower price box, and Fanatics can make a better margin than if they used a distributor. So it can help Fanatics, and it can help the buyer if we go out and get a cheaper box. But the other issue is I'm going back to population control, and John, is exactly what you said. The distributors were deciding, who gets what and when, and that artificially, adjusted the market. So you have cards that came out at very high prices, and we see those go down as more product hits the market on a continuous cycle. So you're teaching people not to invest in the market, because every time they do, you're going to have more product come out later. So I love the idea that you can go into a lid store, buy a hobby box, maybe buy it cheaper than you've been buying it the last couple of years, and still get a first class product. So to me, that's all good. I am worried that Fanatics, I've heard from a lot of people, are requesting data on users from some of the local card shops as part of their data management. We'll see if that ends up being true. I hope that that's not a requirement for the card shops. to have that customer data shared.
Yeah, we're gonna see. I mean, my fear, is that I agree with you. It's nice that you can walk in somewhere and grab a box. We had a couple years where that was very difficult without having to like wrestle somebody for it. But then there's the other side of that coin, right, guys? Where I've noticed lately, even walking into my WalMarts, that the shelves are full. I guess that's good, or is it bad? Are they just making too much of it? Where
Well,
somebody will argue, well, who cares,
I,
John? Right? I
I
enjoy
actually
collecting, and
wanted
I'm
to
not
comment
worried
on
about
this, John.
the value. But listen, right? We remembered what happened years ago, and people are afraid of sort of that return. So that's a concern that they're just going to make. I'm glad, distributors may not like this comment, but they're cutting out the middleman to maximize their profits. That's fine. If I was a business and could do that, why wouldn't I do that? That's just smart business. But the other side of that coin is greed works both ways, right? And so you cut out the middleman, but then you just mass produce something way too much. But the argument there can be, guys. Well, the market will bear that out, right? And maybe that's why we're seeing shelves at Walmart have product on there, because the people who want it have bought it, and that's still there. So they'll have to figure that out. The market will dictate what's the right amount that's in demand, and that sort of thing. I want to put up a comment from Rex, who's online with Tops and Fanatics. So I give his comment. Chris says, I don't see Fanatics lowering retail prices. The money they save by cutting distributors will largely go to the leagues and players association. Yeah, I agree. That's why I don't think prices will necessarily come down. I think the SRP will sort of. I think a better way to describe it is the SRP will sort of remain sort of level rather than 3, 4. Well, the SRP may go up. In other words, a blaster box may not be 19.99 anymore, might be 27.99, but you'll have multiple opportunities to buy it, even months afterwards at 27.99 if you still desire it. I think that will be um, the difference. And then Rex follows up here. Um, I do believe they'll open more direct accounts for shops and breakers, but those shops and breakers will need to represent the brands well. Yeah, that's something I've went on my show and said. When we see, I won't even mention by name and give them a free ad, but when we see breakers do something illicit or not right, right? And if they're online with Tops or Panini or whoever, I think there should be repercussions. I think those companies should either be notified, or if they see it themselves, whether they suspend an account 6 months, whether they suspend an account indefinitely or permanently based on the infraction. But I had a store, right? I had to do things above board, and or I would lose my direct privileges back in the day. I don't think breakers are a business too, right? If they do something shady or downright criminal, I think there should be repercussions to that. And I hope, especially that they're eliminating sort of that middleman being the distributors. I hope there's accountability. That's one thing we need more of. I think we all can agree in this hobby is accountability, right?
Brody, I know you want to say something, then I have a point after you.
Well, I just wanted to say about when you talked about Walmart, I noticed the shelves have been pretty full, and it's because everything's way more expensive than it used to be. Like you mentioned, it's blasters are like $40. Like that's why the shelves are full, and it's not like they're putting Prism basketball or Mosaic out. It's like Chronicles or I mean like decent products, but nothing like crazy.
I mean, and that actually leads to what I was going to say. A lot of people have been talking about Panini upping their print counts because they're on a limited clock until they lose their license. And so for them to maximize profits, if they are going to sell the company, you want that balance sheet looking as good as possible. So from a lot of business and financial reasons, it does Panini justice to print a little bit more. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of their products in the Walmart also.
Yeah, we're gonna. I tell you what, I know it sounds like I've said the next 2 to 4, 3 to 5 years are going to really dictate where the hobby's going. In the future of the hobby, and I'm hoping it's good. I'm going to be involved in it. God willing, regardless of what happens. But obviously, when you're involved in something, you want it to be good, and you want good fortunes to occur, and not the opposite. We got a few minutes left. Topps has released what their 2023 Fernando Tatis Jr. card design will look like. Let me put it on the screen. There it is. I do not know if it will be an SP or a variation, but no, I'm kidding. Topps did not issue, make, or have any affiliation with that graphic I just posted.
Just remember, he has more ringworm than rings.
That's true. All the memes have come out. If you're into that stuff,
As a
you're no
White Sox
shortage.
fan, I feel a lot better about the bad trade we made, giving up Tatis.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad the Mets. The whole Soto thing. I don't know if Soto stays there now, but we'll see. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, guys. We're up against the hour anyway. I haven't, other than on my own show. I get asked when that news broke. I had 3 or 4 private messages asking me what that means for Tatis cards, and you got to remember he's young. I think the bigger question was before even the PED deal was he had trouble just putting full seasons together.
Yeah.
So that was already the question surrounding him, and now you add this. I have some Tatis stuff. I'm just going to hold on to it. From my personal point of view, he's young. If he comes back, and this is a what if he comes back, starts putting full seasons together. There's no second violation of PEDs. Performed at an all-star level for close to 162 games for a few years. People are forgiving, right? People will not bring, some people will bring up the past, but many others will be like, hey, he's doing it now naturally. He messed up. He was young and dumb. He didn't appeal the suspension, which he's not doing. So if you want to give him credit for that, I'm not going to give him too much credit. I just think you really ain't going to win that anyway. And he's just kind of let me serve my suspension and get back on the field as soon as I can, which won't be till late, mid next year. So if he comes back, puts numbers up, doesn't miss time with injuries, doesn't get pinched again for PED use, and he does it for a couple years. I think it's got to be more than 1 year. I think 2 or 3 years of that, people will be all back in on the Tatis Jr. boat and buying his rookies and his graded stuff and all that stuff. If he doesn't, I think that's when the mass. I think there's been some sell off already, but I think if he comes back and just can't stay healthy again, or God forbid, a second PED violation and suspension, I think that's where everybody's jumping off the ship, and that probably is the end. So that's my take for the few people who've asked my opinion on it. Real quick, where anybody want to give kind of their quick thoughts on that?
I think you put it pretty perfectly. I mean, it's can he come back and recover? And if he can't, obviously, bust. But if he can, and like you said, if he can stay healthy for 162 games of the year, then he might come back. But like you said, there's always going to be those stragglers, that say, well, he got suspended for PEDs when he was 24 or whatever he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the injuries, like John said, are a concern. I mean, how many Yohan Moncadas, did people buy? What's going to happen with Wander Franco? So even if he comes back, he's still got to stay healthy. And then how many years does he have to play well to get back up to the market? So I tell people, when you have a young prospect, healthy or not, don't be afraid to take a profit. If you got in low and these cards go up to, where Tatis's high point was, sell and take a profit. There's nothing wrong with that, because you never know with a current player if it'll be an injury
Yeah.
or off the field.
Yep. Couple comments in closing, guys. I want to put them on the screen here. Dan Ryan says Brian Gray of Leaf says he watches breakers and reaches out when he
Mm-hmm.
sees issues. That's cool. Hopefully, it's just not reaching out though. If you have multiple, step up and say no soup for you or no leaf for you. In this case, Yakov Strauss is not a great look for the sport. Talking about Tatis, and not great for the hobby either way. Even if he bounces back in a few years. Yeah, he's never going to shed it completely, but people are forgiving if, you sort of correct your wrongs and right your wrongs. Great point by John here. Says let's evaluate player legacies in their 30s, not in the early 20s. I agree with that, but here's the thing: when you prospect, or if you're someone in the hobby who likes to get in on players at a younger age, right? Especially with all the Bowman lines, right? Bowman draft and Bowman first Bowmans. You're buying those cards even before they make the big leagues on scouting reports and speculation, and so you already have them, and so you have sort of an already built in a vested investment sort of in them, and I have cards like that. Not in the thousands of dollars, but I'll buy 100 count lot of police are coming after me apparently. But I'll buy 100 count lot of a player early on and just sort of like a lottery ticket, right? Or 100 lottery tickets, and hope they pan out. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they do. So, well, John says let's collect and not prospect. I do both. I do. So you only half like me, J.K. But I will say this: for what some of the prices lately have been, I've done less prospecting probably in the last year or two comparatively to years past. So, all right, guys. Any closing comments? Give out where people can find you. We'll start with. We'll be nice to our guest. We'll start with Danny.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me today. Just final thoughts. Do what you love. We're all here for the same passion. Anything we said is, there's no firm rules. Do what you like. And if it makes you happy, that's all that matters. You can find me at sportsbalt.com or at sportsbalt on all social media. If you're in the Baltimore area, I'm also on 105.7 The Fan. You can hear me talking the hobby a couple times a week.
There you go, Brody.
Twitter at BrodyTK. I just started doing TikTok as well, posting my daily rips on there, same as YouTube, and my web show Hobby Life. Oh wait, no, it's that way. Uh, it's gonna be changing a little bit coming soon, so stay tuned.
All right. Awesome. Sports Card Nation, Google Sports Card Nation. Everything you need to know will come up. We release on Fridays with a new interview episode, and Mondays, Hobby Quick Hits. Just me and my big mouth. Try to keep it to 20, 30 minutes. I already told you Monday show going to be about BBCE. And thanks everybody this morning watching. If you missed us live, you can catch us on all major podcast platforms as well. And we'll see you Tuesday with our next episode, and we'll be back here next week at the same time as today. Take care.